Hey guys, we're just doing a quick video to go over how to solve linear equations. We're filling out our Foldable page that's going in our interactive student notebook. So I have the steps for solving listed on your Foldable. I think it's really handy to refer back to. So step 1 says distributive property. So when you're going to use the distributive property is when you have parentheses or brackets to distribute into. So I kind of write that there just to help me remember. Step 2 is when you want to combine like terms. Sometimes we write CLT for combine like terms. Step 3 is moving the variable all to one side or the other. Step 4 is isolating the variable. You're going to add or subtract first and then multiply or divide. And then it's always good to check your solution. So let's fill out our example together. And I'm going to do some color coding here. I really recommend it. I think it helps make connections within your brain to make it clearer when you go back to look to see what you did if you're using this, with a test or a final or a review. So step 1 is distributive property. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show what I did right here. So I have 3 times x, which is 3x, 3 times 1, which is 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the rest just in gray or black over here. And then I'm going to explain what I did, which was distributive property. It's not that we just explain this on all of our homework or anything, but when you're making notes or a foldable or a graphic organizer, you want to go back and be able to tell what you did. So color coding to help yourself understand is a really good thing to do. So next is combine like terms. So I'm going to underline these. We're going to combine those because they don't have a variable, they're constants. So 3 plus 7 is 10. And I'm going to go ahead and just write CLT for combine like terms there in green. And I'm going to switch back to my gray because the part I'm putting in gray, I didn't actually do anything to. So hopefully the green makes it stand out and say, oh, okay, that green was combined like terms. All right, next is moving the variable to one side or the other. So I'm going to go ahead and do this in blue. So I'm going to subtract the 3x. I'm going to try to move it to the right. So what that's going to do is then make this be 2x. And I'm just going to go ahead and write down move the variable to one side. So this is way more detail than I would do on homework because I'm trying to make it really valuable in terms of going back and looking at. So I still have the 10 equals. All right, so now let's isolate the variable. Let's get the variable by itself. So now I'm going to go ahead, let me see here. We have not used, how about orange? So I'm going to put divide by 2. So 5 equals x. And I'm going to write isolate the variable. So I don't color code it every time. This is just something that's a good brain strategy to help your brain connect to the information and to also help your brain when you go back a week or weeks later to look at this when you need it, and hopefully it will help it stand out more and let you follow what you had intended. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at the bottom. So it says we have special cases. So let's just take this one for example. I'm not going to color code all this. I'm just going to pick a color and stick with it. All right, so if you have 3x plus 5 equals 23, there's no distributive, there's no combine like terms, the variable's all on one side. So now we're going to isolate the variable. Remember, we add or subtract first. So I'm going to subtract the 5. So that gets me 3x equals 18. I'll divide by 3, so that gets me x equals 6. So that's an example of one solution is when you end up with just your variable equals a number. So like x equals 6 or n equals 12 or I don't know, y equals 10.5. So let's look at this one. This is going to be a no solution. So we don't have distributive property, we don't have combined like terms, but we do have variables on both sides. So let's just go ahead and subtract this 2x so that it moves over to the other side. So what happens there is 2x minus 2x is 0, so that's why that's gone. On the right-hand side over here, 2x minus 2x is 0. So if you notice, all of your variables simplified out. We don't have any variables left on this step. Then you ask yourself, does 7 equal 0? It does not, and so that tells you, hey, this is no solution. I'm going to draw a little squiggly line to separate it, and let's try this one. I need to distribute, so I have 3x, and then 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. I don't need to combine like terms, So now I'm going to go ahead and move the 3x so that it's on the same side as the other one. So I'm going to subtract 3x to move it to the right. And then what happens there is 3x minus 3x is 0, but I still have negative 6. And on this side, 3x minus 3x is 0, and I still have negative 6. So once again, all your variables simplified out, and you're left with negative 6 equals negative 6. So you have to ask yourself, does negative 6 equal negative 6? Yes, it does. So when it is equal and all the variables are simplified out, that's when you can put infinitely many solutions. And you can use the infinity sign, it's just like a sideways 8. And then that is called an identity, is when you end up with that. So there will be a question in your homework saying, is this an identity? And if it's infinitely many solutions, you'll say yes. All right, and that is completing our foldable, and this should be really helpful when we continue on with our notes, our homework, and future tests.